The Solo Game Master's Guide from Geek Gamers, a well known YouTube channel about solo adventuring, has been published by Modiphius Entertainment. This book just recently went up for pre order, and when you pre ordered the physical copy of the book, you were sent a PDF. As you can tell, I've printed out my PDF and I wanted to kind of run through it and share some of the highlights of this book. What I felt the best way to describe this book is simply by a quote in the book. Thus, this book is not so much a how to, if anything, this book is a how can I do this better book. I really feel that quote sums up the book as a whole. This isn't a step by step guide for solo gaming of any sort. This is really a book of taking all of the information that has been shared on the Geek Gamers YouTube channel over the years and put them into one place. You're going to find a lot of referencing back to certain YouTube episodes in this book, but the concepts have been expanded on and additional information added that has not been shared on the YouTube channel. So I figured let's dive into this book and take a quick look at things that I feel are the highlights. This is not going to be a flip through page by page sharing everything that's in this book. I feel this book is filled with a lot of treasure for any solo adventurer, and I want the viewers to discover a lot of that on their own. So my recommendation would be obviously purchase the book for yourself. But I do want to share some of the highlights and some of the concepts that are in this book that hopefully that will get you motivated to purchase it. As you can see, it's quite a lot of pages. Don't be fooled by that. It's only 175 numbered pages in the book. There's a few extra pages with advertisement and stuff, but roughly it's 175 pages. I printed this out one-sided, and the reason for that, and it was a mistake on my end, is when I was scrolling through the PDF version of the book that was sent to me, I knew right away there was a lot of great information in the book. I'm like, you know what? I need to print this book out and be able to write in it and highlight things and draw attention to certain aspects in this book. So I went ahead and just printed it one-sided, knowing that I could have the other side to write on. But after I printed it, I noticed there was a large number of blank pages throughout the book, in between chapters and things like that. And I thought maybe there was a problem with the PDF, but I went back through and looked at the PDF, and there's just a lot of blank pages in this book. My hopes is that when we get the physical copy of this book, that the paper quality allows us to write in the book. I feel this is more of a workbook and not just a book to read and put on your shelf to look pretty. I really think this is something that we're going to be able to use on a regular basis, reference on a regular basis, kind of see my physical copy getting trashed. Luckily, I have this PDF copy. So anyways, that is why there's so many pages. It's all one-sided. It's 175 pages. And list of all the credits, everything about who wrote the book and the people that helped. But your table of contents, everything is right here. The book is broken down into 3 different parts. Part 1 is the big picture. You know, what is solo gaming and all the bigger concepts. Part 2 breaks down, gets you into rules, how to start solo sessions with the rules, kind of steps of setting up a solo session. And then part 3 gets into the tools, you know, oracles, dice, random tables, things that we're used to as solo gamers. The appendix, these are all the charts and information that is shared throughout the book, plus additional information and just reference material. So you could technically break this book down into 2 sections. Since I have a printed copy, I could just take these first 3 sections, split those off into one book, and then just take the second section of the Appendix and just have those as a separate section to reference, which is probably what's going to end up happening with this PDF copy once I get the physical copy. Chapter 2, Think Like a Solo GM, is really just a great chapter filled with advice, 10 mindsets of a solo GM. And it's just information for you to remember when you're approaching your solo games and when you're thinking about how to run your games. I think the first one is probably the one that struck me the most. Everything is playing. And really, what this is opening my mind up to is understanding that if I buy a rule system and do nothing with that rule system but create a character, that's still a solo session. I'm just creating a character, I'm still playing the game. Part of a game is creating characters, and if as a solo gamer, you may just create a character. And there's a game out there on the market that I have no interest in playing, but it's a game that I do like the character creation of it, and that's Tales from the Loop. This is a free league game, and I think the character generation in that game is fascinating. First of all, child of that era, 80s, 90s. I grew up in that time, and I liked how the character creation in that game gets into some back questions and asking all kinds of unique stuff of the players so that they can really develop a personality for their character. But I never wanted to purchase the game because I had no interest in playing it. There's certain mechanics in it I don't like. But now that after getting this mindset in place, I don't feel bad about buying the game and just sitting down one afternoon and just creating random characters and having fun and just being entertained by that simple aspect. You don't have to actually buy games with the intention to play them all the way through. You can just simply buy them for certain aspects of those games and just enjoy that moment. It's your entertainment. You're entertaining yourself. It's you are the only person you need to worry about in solo gaming. So this is just some great tips, information. That is one that really struck home with me. That I found very fascinating. That's opening my eyes up to a little bit broader world. One other thing you're going to find throughout this book are going to be these little exercises. And this is a pretty well-known exercise from Geek Gamers YouTube channel. And it's about grabbing one of your favorite games that has some theme to it, fantasy, sci-fi, and grab components out of that game to create a game in session. And in this exercise, kind of just walks you through that process and gives you, challenges you to go grab one of your favorite games and create a session out of it. So this is why I feel this is going to be more of a workbook and not necessarily just a book to read. And that's why I'm hoping those blank pages give us a place to write so we can actually take this lesson from reading the book, apply it to an exercise and write about it. And if we can write about it in the book and have it there, for us to refer back to later, that's a great tool. Or just where we can just write down some additional notes regarding the exercise or our experience with the exercise. Section 2 talks about rules and how to use them. This section really helped me change the way I will approach solo adventuring moving forward. I feel I kind of got caught in the trap that is outlined in this book, which is I'd get a rule set, I'd create a character, and then I'd set off on the adventure. And sometimes after you create your character to set off the adventure, you're like, all right, where are we? What are we doing? And you kind of draw a blank. You just don't have anything to start with. Where in this section of the book, it really helps you understand that don't start with the character creation. Don't even start with rules. You can easily just start by creating an environment, creating a situation or a conflict, and then from that create your character so that you know where your character is going to be, what's going to be going on, so you can develop your character for the situation, and then you can move into the adventure. And it was just great advice, great information, and I really find it helpful. As soon as I finish up my current session that I'm playing of Twilight 2000, my next adventure, I'll be starting this way, where I'm going to create my environment, and then I'll worry about creating my character and everything else. So it's great information. But yeah, this section really talks about how to start a solo session with no rules. And that's the main focus behind this chapter, and giving you that information and the concepts that you will go through. So the first chapter talked about starting with a game session by creating the environment and giving the tools to do that. Chapter 5 starts about creating a solo session with a rule set. So now we're going to go the opposite direction. And this chapter just kind of walks you through setting up a game session if you've already got a rule set in mind. The two examples, and they're great examples, are using Scarlet Hero and Index Card RPG. And this will actually walk you through the creation of an adventure using a published rules system already and starting with the rules in mind, which is just great information. And it's nice to have these examples so that you can write down information as you're reading it, and kind of get your mindset going back to the 10 mindsets of a solo GM, and get those concepts hammered out and understand how they're being used, and take it from there. Also in this chapter, it's going to talk about D&D. Um, One of the things that a lot of people, myself included, we always look for solo games that are simpler rule systems or lighter rule systems. We don't look for the big crunchy rules. Everything being shared in this book can be used in larger, crunchier game systems like D&D, Pathfinder. The example talked a little bit about was Starfinder being a very crunchy game. And there's a whole section just dedicated to talking about D&D and how these solo tips can be used in such a large game. Then you're going to get into the appendix. There's a bunch of different appendix. This one was the 10 mindsets. It's just kind of a one-page thing just to have those mindsets laid out for you. The solo session checklist. This is just a guide of getting started, just giving all the information and helping you, just having a reference sheet. Like if you get the PDF, just print these pages out separately and just have them available. So when you're starting your session, and I'm keeping my hand over the pages, just if you wanted this information, go out and buy the book. I'm trying to, I don't want to do a flip through where people can just read what's on the pages without having to buy the book. Next piece is this solo wallet. Geek Gamer is famous for her little wallet full of little random charts. This particular chart has been shared before. This is not a new chart, but it does get into some other information, and you may want to take a look at that. And again, these appendix are just full of information. Here is the a 2d6 literary random table for adventure seeds. And Geek Gamer also put out another book, a small little paperback book you can get from Amazon, that has the same type of a table, a double d6, and just pick your just information to get seeds to get you started. And again, lots of great information throughout this book. This section here is just about books, referencing books to go out and read to help you become a better solo adventurer, or books that have been reviewed on the channel, rule systems that are recommended, just great information for resources if you want to go further into the rabbit hole of solo adventuring. This chapter here really talks a lot about the theory or the psychology about why we enjoy dungeon adventuring so much. It's Dungeons and Dragons for a reason. We like going into dungeons, and a great information from the host of Geek Gamers, and her understanding and her knowledge that she shares. And it's just a great chapter to read. And anyone would benefit from reading this. This is not something specific to a solo adventure. Actually, nothing in this book is specific to solo adventuring. Any GM can use this information. Even players can use the information in here. Sometimes having an understanding of what the GM is doing helps with players as well. But it's just filled with a lot of great information. And then at the very end, there's a little section about who the host of Geek Gamers is. And really reading this, you'll get an understanding of why this book is filled with so much great information. She's a fascinating host, a fascinating individual, and this little background will help you get a better understanding of who she is as a person. So there's my little quick review about the Solo Game Master's Guide. Again, written by Geek Gamers, the host of Geek Gamers YouTube channel, and being published by Modiphius Entertainment. If you are a new solo adventurer or an experienced, well-seasoned adventurer, you will find treasures in this book that will help with your game sessions. And it's just filled with charts and tips and advice. Not necessarily how to, but how can you make it better? And that's what the heart of this book is about. Thank you for watching and have a great day.